The other day, my son asked me, Mom, why do people make mistakes? I have got the impression that almost all adults regret something and they have made mistakes and they have made wrong decisions. Mom, how can I avoid that? How can I avoid making wrong decisions? There isn't a, of course, easy answer to that. It's far from easy. But if you have to make decisions, but you are afraid to make decisions, I would consider the next things. Well, first of all, if you don't decide, somebody else will decide for you. And that's not a good place to be. I know that if you are younger, many parents want to decide for you. If you are older, your spouse wants to decide for you, or your employer, or somebody else. Or it can still be your mom when you are adult. But it's always better to decide yourself than let somebody else to decide. They have their own motives. They don't think about you. Everybody thinks about themselves in the end. If not nothing else, then how do I appear when they succeed or they do not succeed? Or they take this path and not that? And of course, if you are young, there are so many things to decide. Where to study, where to work, who to date. There are so many things. But you have to start because they are quite big things. You cannot let somebody else decide everything for you because then it's not your life. Then it's somebody else's life. And even if you know very little, make the decisions with the knowledge that you have. And then it's your own. And there may be that other people want something else for you that you actually don't want. And believe me, you want to live your life, not the life that they set up for you. And the next thing would be that don't underestimate yourselves. Especially young people, young women, underestimate, and women in general, underestimate their abilities. Try to be realistic. Think about your peers. Where do you stand? Usually, even if girls have very good grades, they still think that they cannot, and they are not wise enough, and they are not smart enough, and they cannot go far, and they have to be small. And that's something that comes from the whole society, how girls are raised up. But try not to underestimate yourselves and aim higher. If you think about that this is my level, then aim a little bit higher. It's always better to aim higher. You can always come down. You can always take a step back. But if you choose a certain level, it may not be possible anymore to then go further. Of course, in some countries, study is free, so you can study how much you like it at any age. But that is not very common. So something is so-called set to stone when you choose your path. And even if you are grown up, don't underestimate yourself even then. You can always try. And the next thing is maybe similar to this, is people don't remember. People think only of themselves. So if you try something and you don't succeed, they won't remember. It feels terrible for you. I lost my face and I lost my dignity and I lost everything. Well, I got a news for you. They don't remember. They can laugh about it in a month or two, but a year, nobody remembers. 5 years, it's aged memory. And they have made mistakes in those 5 years, so they don't want to remind you of yours, because then you could remind them of theirs. So people don't remember. So you can do whatever you want and try crazy things, and they don't remember. Because almost all people actually think about only themselves. So they don't notice you, they don't remember, they don't pay attention. And then there is the hard thing. You don't know. If you are young, you don't know. If you are old, you don't know. If you are somewhere in between, you don't know. That's true. But we can only make the decisions, or our decisions, with the knowledge that we have on that time. And if you are 20, 30, 40, you cannot make decisions with the mind of a 50-year-old because time traveling hasn't been invented yet. So it's just that you have the knowledge now that you have to make your decisions. You can learn from others, you can look how they did, how they do. Not so much what they say, because people tend to lie, straight on lie. But make the decisions there and then with the knowledge that you have, but make them yourselves. And then it's your life, and then it's your mistake. And the next thing about making decisions is that, and failing, is that you never know what comes after. Even if you fail or you make wrong decision, there might be something good in that. When I met the father of my children, I knew that there was something wrong. I had the notion, but I wanted to believe that everything is all right and everything is good. And then I, of course, learned that I made mistake. But before I realized that, like through my bones, I had 2 children. But they are not mistake. I wouldn't change it for a world. That experience was bad, but I had my children. So there is this grey cloud and silver lining. Actually, I hate that expression. I think that's strange. But when you live, you make mistakes, you make decisions, you don't know what comes. And it might be that there is a disaster, there might be that there is success, there might be that there is a disaster with success. So don't take it so hard on yourselves. And overall, I think that people making mistakes in my age, and I making my mistakes, making my decisions and mistakes somehow, yes. And looking back, would I change anything in a big scale? Would I change the first relationship that I went to because somebody else decided for me? Would I change the next relationship that I had my children, but was no good anyway? If I haven't lived that life, if I haven't made those mistakes, I wouldn't be here where I am now. I wouldn't have met my husband that I am with now, that loves me, that we have this good life together. I wouldn't have this family around me. I wouldn't have my children if I hadn't made these mistakes. If I had chosen another path, I don't know where I would be. And that's the other thing. You have to just decide, if not flip of a coin, then with something else. And then just see what happens. And I don't tell you to forgive yourselves, because that's another odd concept. But accept yourselves and the decisions you made. And if they were mistakes, then they were mistakes. But at least you lived. And it's always better to live than not to live. Or that's what I think. But life is full full of decisions to make. We all have to make mistakes, and we all have to make decisions. And of course, there are stories about people that succeed, that go right away to right form of studies, and they have a magnificent career, and they at the first time meet their ideal spouse, and they live happily ever after, and their children are marvelous and succeed. But those are mainly fairy tales. Whenever I see that kind of story, I think, what's behind it? What's the reality? What's the truth? Of course, there might be some, and there are, if we think about how many people there are in the world, there must be those who succeed from the start to the end. But that's not very common. Usually we make mistakes. And I think that having a relationships, there is one crucial fact that you should know or think about and really internalize, that going into a relationship is a little bit like, I don't know, going to a car dealer's. You have to test drive. Everything is test driving. You cannot know when you see somebody that everything is okay and will be happily ever after, and they are magnificent spouses and fathers and mothers. But everything is a test drive. Especially for young people, I would say that if you just date somebody for a month or two, then you know. And if it doesn't work out, then just break up. It's not a big deal. Yet again, nobody remembers after 2 months or a year or 5 years. It's better to decide that it was a mistake than to carry on that mistake. And that, I think, is more, or a bigger thing. It's not that you make mistakes, that you make the wrong decisions, but what you do after you realize that this was a wrong decision. So if it went wrong, then start by maneuvering yourself out of it. Start looking for a better solution. And of course, it depends. If you have been dating somebody for 2 months, then it's easy to say that let's just be friends. If you have even bought the house and taken the dog and bought the car, it's not a big deal. Then just sell it all and get out of it. It's not worth it to stay in a bad relationship because you have a car together or a dog or a house. No. Of course, if you had children together, then it's a little bit more complicated because children will suffer. And then you have to think about what year do I do this or that, when it's possible. But still, children grow up, believe me, and then the world is open again to make decisions and try not to make mistakes. Do you have things that you regret? Do you have these grey clouds with silver linings? Please comment down below. But make decisions, try new things, go forward. If there are mistakes, then so what? This life that we are now is only solution or is only due to decisions and mistakes that we have made. And it's the only place to be. We don't know what would have happened if we had turned right when we turned left. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.